Hey guys, Kiwi here. In this video, I'll be breaking down and reviewing Season 3, Episode 5 of Better Call Saul, Chicanery. Join me as I recap the episode and analyze exactly how important it is to the overall story of the show. And with that being said, a warning of spoilers, and let's jump right into it. So the episode starts out with a flashback of Jimmy at Chuck's house while it's being renovated to accommodate for Chuck's sensitivity to electricity. Jimmy asks Chuck if he's making the right play by lying, mentioning that the bigger the lie, the harder it is to dig yourself out of it. Chuck just says that he'll cross that bridge when he comes to it, foreshadowing the rest of the episode. Next, we see Chuck preparing dinner without electricity for when Rebecca and Jimmy come over, and as they enter Chuck's house and greet him, he tells them an excuse about how his power is out when he's actually trying to hide his sensitivity of electronics to Rebecca. Rebecca is Chuck's ex, and we've seen her before in the show during Season 2, where there's actually an episode named after. So anyways, after they finish eating dinner, Jimmy takes their plates away, and Rebecca and Chuck discuss how they can't believe that Jimmy became a lawyer, giving us a feel for when all of this is on the timeline. So as Rebecca gets a phone call, it starts to cause Chuck a great deal of discomfort. Chuck eventually tries walking away from her, but when she follows him into the kitchen, he ends up grabbing the phone out of her hand and throwing it away. Due to Chuck not wanting to tell her the truth about his condition, he lies again, saying that he thought it was very rude of her to answer her phone in good company like that. This causes her to leave, with Chuck not wanting to tell her the truth even though Jimmy tried so hard to convince him to. Moving on, we briefly see Jimmy bring a goldfish to the same veterinary that gives Mike work, as it turns out that Mike referred Jimmy there because Jimmy wants to hire someone to plant a battery on Chuck, which comes back later in the episode. Next, we see the sneak peek for the episode as Kim gets congratulated on doing a good job with Misa Verde, but breaks the news to them about the situation going on with Jimmy and Chuck. I have a full breakdown and discussion about this on my channel, but to my surprise, they decide to keep her with them, at least for now. She keeps her dinner plans with them, along with assuring that Jimmy's situation won't be an issue, but is that foreshadowing for the rest of Season 3? Let me know what you guys feel about it. Howard and Chuck discuss the possibility of Chuck not testifying, as Howard feels like Chuck might be going a bit overboard with all of this. Howard wants to protect the image and well-being of the firm, but Chuck doesn't care how they look at all. This, along with other examples throughout Season 3, make me believe that Howard won't want to continue working with Chuck in the near future if this continues, and I have another video about this topic on my channel as well. So as the actual court case begins, the prosecution and defendant both make their opening statements, with the first witness being Howard. Kim asks him questions as they recap the events of Seasons 1 and 2. First off, they recap how Jimmy passed the bar while working in the mailroom at HHM, only to be secretly blocked from getting hired there as a lawyer by his own brother Chuck. Then they go on to talk about how Jimmy was hired at Davis & Maine at the beginning of Season 2, but they circle back to how Jimmy brought Chuck food and supplies every day. They even mention how Jimmy brought Chuck's favorite newspapers to him every day, which was something that Howard was impressed by himself back at the end of Season 1. Next, as they prepare to play Chuck's recording of Jimmy in court, Jimmy starts stalling for time as he's waiting for Rebecca to arrive in order to help make Chuck crack, because he wants her to hear it as well. In the next scene, we get shown Chuck practicing and planning out what he's going to say about Jimmy in court as Howard picks him up and brings him to court. Chuck's tape of Jimmy plays, and it seems to leave everyone with a lack of words. Chuck enters the room as everyone accommodates for his condition, handing over all electronics and turning off all the lights, well, except for the exit sign, that is, as they are unable to be turned off. The prosecutor discusses what was on the tape with Chuck, along with how Jimmy tampered with evidence. Chuck is asked if he hates his brother, to which he says no, but also mentions how much he loves the law and how much he wants to protect it, once again bringing in the idea of Chuck hiding his true intentions behind a curtain while he goes on and on about how he wants to do the right thing because the law is so sacred. The definition of chicanery is the use of trickery to achieve a political, financial, or legal purpose. Jimmy does this kind of stuff all the time, and it really pisses Chuck off. Chuck absolutely hates Slip and Jimmy. Chuck hates how Jimmy always tries to take the easy route and how he always tries to just talk himself out of everything. Chuck wants Jimmy to earn everything the hard way, and that's why he didn't give Jimmy that job at his firm. And we'll get back to that later, but as Rebecca surprisingly arrives, it catches Chuck completely off guard, causing him to ask for a short recess. Rebecca confronts Chuck, explaining that she can't believe that he didn't tell her the truth. She suggests leaving as she can tell that she's a huge distraction right now, but Chuck insists on her staying. Kim allows Jimmy to question Chuck himself as Jimmy tries explaining Chuck's condition along with putting it in perspective by showing photos of how Chuck's house is kept without any electricity. Jimmy also better explains the situation during the tape recording as far as Chuck pretending to upplay his condition in order to worry Jimmy and make him admit to his wrongdoing. This entire time, Rebecca seems concerned and surprised at the way Chuck's been living, leading up to Jimmy mentioning that Chuck's condition started around the time that he was divorced. Although the short conversation involving Chuck's marriage doesn't completely set Chuck off, what Jimmy does next causes Chuck to have a complete and total meltdown. So first off, Jimmy gets Chuck to explain how he reacts to electricity along with its effects on him. Chuck explains how he can sense electricity, but using the red exit signs as an example, he says that it first depends on how strong or weak they are, but it also depends on how close he is to them in order to feel the effects of them. Jimmy then toys with him, eventually admitting that he has his phone in his pocket. As he takes it out, Chuck picks it up and starts laughing at Jimmy over the fact that there's no battery in it. But little does Chuck know he actually had the phone battery in his coat pocket the entire time. Jimmy asks Chuck to take out whatever is in his coat pocket, and Chuck takes the battery out completely shocked as he throws it away on the ground. As some sort of hilarious magic trick, Jimmy had someone plant the battery on Chuck while bumping into him earlier in the episode on his way to the courtroom, and this explains why they showed that scene along with why they showed Jimmy going to Mike's veterinarian. Jimmy has known that deep down, Chuck's condition has probably all been in his head ever since the doctor back in season 1 flicked on a battery at the end of Chuck's bed without him knowing or him showing any symptoms. There are other examples of this, but needless to say, Jimmy still tried believing in Chuck and helping him because he wanted to defend his brother. With that being said, Chuck has really given Jimmy no other choice but to completely out Chuck for his condition now that Chuck is trying to ruin Jimmy's career. And the fact that Rebecca got to see all of this as well really circles back to the flashback at the beginning of the episode as we got to see how badly Chuck originally reacted to her phone. This causes Chuck to start freaking out as he calls what Jimmy is doing chicanery and starts freaking out over everything we've seen the past 2.5 seasons. Chuck complains about Jimmy switching the numbers, he calls Jimmy's billboard publicity a stunt, and he goes on and on about how horrible of a person Jimmy is all the way back to him even stealing money from his parents or robbing them blind. Chuck mentions that he should have stopped Jimmy then and that he needs to stop him now. And just as he's yelling all of this at the court, they look at him as if they've just finally realized what kind of person he is, as he's pretty much just completely outed himself. They've been practically building up to this episode the entire show, and now we finally got to see it come to fruition. Jimmy made his point, and he got across the message that he originally intended to. He wanted the court to fully realize what kind of person Chuck is, along with how his brain works, and his true intentions. Jimmy got them to understand the circumstances of everything that took place, along with perfectly explaining everything that's led up to this moment involving his relationship with Chuck. The episode ends with Chuck apologizing for his dramatic outburst as the camera pans up towards the glowing exit sign. This episode was incredible and I loved every bit of it. Whatever's going to happen to Chuck during the rest of season 3, I feel like it's all downhill from here. It's crazy how this court case just started out as Chuck wanting to take away Jimmy's law license, but it turned into Chuck actually getting cornered for his condition, and will he actually get committed for this? Man, it will be so ironic that the thing that took down Chuck was him trying to take down Jimmy. What are your guys' opinions about the episode? Did you enjoy the Jimmy versus Chuck battle during court? Let me know down in the comments section below, along with possibly leaving a like on the video if you've enjoyed anything I've said today. I'm thinking into doing a video about how Chuck's condition started, along with why and when, but with that being said, that's pretty much it for the video today, as I'm just really excited to see how the rest of season 3 will play out, and I hope that it continues the incredible momentum of the first half. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.
He'll never change. Ever since he was 9, always the same. Couldn't keep his hands out of the cash drawer. But not our Jimmy. Couldn't be precious Jimmy. Stealing them blind. And he gets to be a lawyer? What a sick joke. I should have stopped him when I had the chance. And you have to stop him.